Imagine for a moment that your child is 25, broke, and living in your basement. This may not be a stretch for some parents, but for many, it is a fear that it could happen to them. If this isn't your situation with your child, but it worries you, let me ask what you're doing right now as you're raising your school-age children to ensure that this doesn't become your situation. You see, as a parent, you have the power right now to cultivate financial wealth in your children, in your day-to-day parenting practices.
Welcome to the Bill Corbett podcast, Creating Cooperative Kids. A listening experience created for parents interested in raising independent kids and those who would like tips and techniques for increasing the cooperation from their children and teens. Bill is answering questions from his email box, so please feel free to email him at bill@cooperativekids.com. You can also find all of his resources at billcorbettsbooks.com. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, share, and like this podcast. Now back to the episode.
So what exactly can you do now as a parent? In this episode, I meet up with professional speaker and author and my friend, Tommy Maloney, to discuss some easy-to-implement ideas for parents to begin practicing at home with their kids. Tommy is a men's coach who helps bio and bonus dads lead more meaningful lives. He is also a TEDx presenter and has spoken at national events, including the Everything Dad Convention.
Hey, Tommy, it was great seeing you again. Thank you for joining me on this short conversation. And I think we picked a really important one. How do you pass financial literacy to your kids? And there's many ways we can do it. So what I hope parents watching this will walk away with, what are my 5 things, my 10 things I can do as a parent? Because I think once we talk about the theory, let's talk about what parents can start doing right away to get this implemented in their family. So thanks for joining me, Tommy.
Bill, it's always a pleasure to see you, to hang with you, to speak with you. Even virtually, I am blessed and honored and grateful to know you, Bill.
I think it's we met about 10, 12 years ago about that?
About just over 12 years ago.
12 years ago in parent class training. But anyway, that's another story for another time. So let's get started right away on this financial literacy, because I think it's so important. So I broke it down in a couple categories. The first thing is father's involvement, which is right up your alley because you're an expert in engaging fathers in becoming the dad or bonus dad or whatever in their kids' lives. So let's start with financial literacy. What comes to mind for you with father involvement?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is when, and you used the word bonus. Thank you for using that. For those that don't understand, our family, we don't use that vernacular of step. We use bonus. And one of the first things we implemented when we became a family was the 3-ring binder. And what this was about, Bill, is we took the 3-ring binder and then we had little pockets, little plastic pockets, and we divided it up for short-term goals, long-term goals, tithing as well.
So important.
Yes. So when we call, if you can see behind me, the coloring book of the 2 Wonder Twins, Connor and Becca, when they were younger and they would get money for, let's say, birthday or Christmas, what have you. Well, we would break it down into their binder depending on what they wanted. So if they had a short-term goal and a long-term goal, we would break down the money for them. And then again, the tithing of 10%, and we would add that to their binder. And so that's how we were starting to get our kids involved with money, how they can work on saving money even before having a savings account. And it was one of those things that it started off really successful, Bill, but as time grew on, it kind of fell by the wayside. But that was the first thing we implemented in our blended family.
And we did the same thing because we had the 4 pouches, long-term savings, short-term savings, and I think they're 30% and 40% respectively, and then tithing 10%. The remaining 20 was fun money. That's where they could put that pocket in. And I actually went out and bought those clear plastic pencil cases and put them in the book. So this is something parents can work on. Hey, before we go any further, I'm going to show your social media site at the bottom of your screen. Where do you want to direct people who are watching this want to learn more about you?
TommyMaloney.com.
Hey, that's pretty simple.
Yes,
TommyMaloney.com. Okay, great. So I think what you're talking about is father involvement is putting a tool in place so they can begin to learn. But I think the whole thing is father involvement being there to implement this tool, this procedure. And I think a lot of it has to do with also your attitude towards money, right? Because an attitude towards money, a lot of people today, they get their self-value on how much money they have. And we've got
right.
to stop that before that grows. Money is not who you are. It's how we treat it and value it, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I look at that along the lines of, you know, we both have adult children now. Um, when they were younger, they probably didn't see where they would end up work-wise. And I feel that that's where maybe their mindset is as well, is not only I have to have all this money because that's money makes me powerful, but it also the job that the job defines me and money defines me, and that's not true. And it's what you do with the money, what you do at a job. And so when it comes to the father involvement, it's about, giving kids the space, the opportunity to see that work does not define you. Your job does not define you. It's the family dynamics. It's things of those natures, Bill.
And I think it's important that we model how we handle money. Kids learn from watching parents, not
Hmm.
just lectures. Like, you listen to me, young man. I want you to understand about money. It's how you behave in front of them. That's a huge learning tool, and making sure you're modeling appropriate money. Another thing is how you feel towards earning, saving, and even investing. If you're an early, didn't have a good role model, and so I had to learn this later in life. And now I'm playing with the stock market. Not much. I'm buying one or two shares of a stock using an app like Robinhood, where I can play with it on my phone, so I can see how stocks go up and go down. So I'm learning a lot now. And I'm teaching my adult son as I'm doing this. So he's now got the app, and we're talking about different companies and shares, and the initial the IPO. What does that mean? And should you buy at the IPO, or should you wait? That kind of thing. But it's all about the whole earning and saving. What do you say to that?
I am I'm in the same boat as you, Bill.
Are you?
My dad, God bless him, he was not a financial wizard by any means. He's in his 80s right now, and he still works part-time to supplement his Social Security, and that's my biggest fear. But the reverse, though, Bill, is that my son Connor is actually helping me with that same app, Robinhood, and we talk about that. We talk about, what investments, that he sees that have been successful, even ones that
Mhm.
haven't been. And so I'm learning from him because again, same thing, Bill. I was late to the game of showing up going, "Hey, I got to save money. 401k. What? Huh?" So, yeah, I'm with you, Bill. And the great thing is we learn from them as much
Yes.
as we
Yeah.
we we were trying to teach them when they were younger.
You know what I'm doing? I'm using my kids now, my adult kids. So women are bigger consumers than men. So I go to my daughters, and I'll say, "What's the latest fad? What are your friends buying? What are they going crazy about?" And then I go look for the company on the stock exchange and see if I can get it. And I only buy like one, two, three shares at a time because I don't want to lose all my money. But I want to
Yeah.
see, is that true? And it's amazing. Women are great consumers. But anyway, using my kids now. But you're so right. And using our kids to learn more. Hey, I just want to talk about let's see, we talked about age appropriate lessons. One thing is that I think is important when our kids are going to buy something, whether it's supplies for school or spending their allowance. I've always been a believer that we need to let our kids take the money in hand and go into the store and buy it, and get in the register aisle actually count the change out, and yeah, annoy the shoppers behind you, and they
Yes.
see a kid counting up pennies, they're going to walk to another aisle. But letting them do the whole transaction, and the more we do that, the more they learn and see, right?
The one thing I started thinking about is when my mom would send me to the grocery store to go get little things. And I would annoy the clerks too, because I would stand there and I would count it out because I knew what my mom expected back. And luckily our kids, they're into that mode as well, especially again, the Wonder Twins. They were really good at asking questions. They were always really good about, you know, can we get this? No, here's why. But also giving them that independence, Bill, of being able to, walk into a store, sometimes with adult supervision and going and getting something. And here's the thing, Bill, when they're using their own money, it's very special because there's a feeling they get going, oh my gosh, this is my money. I get to purchase something with my money. And it's a very positive thing.
I just want to add two experiences to that. When I was a kid and I had a paper route, and I used to walk the paper route in my neighborhood and realize all these kids had bikes, and I wanted a bike, and my parents couldn't afford to buy me a bike. So I saved up my money for the newspaper route, bought my first bike, and I'm telling you that the pride, I shined and polished that bike every day. You never found it laying on the ground. I used to set it against a tree until I could afford a kickstand, and watching other kids throw their bikes around, not care. But I took pride. It was a red 3-speed bike, and I used to take that because then I bought the baskets so I could throw the newspapers on the doors that I didn't have to go inside. And the last thing on experiences, when my son was growing up, I told him, I said, I'll match you dollar for your car, but I'm not going out and buying a car for you. I'm going to help you buy a car. We had neighbors who had kids. They went out and bought them, 3, 4, 5-year-old Mustangs. And my son's like, that's not fair, Dad. And I said, I know, life's not fair. So
Yep.
how much money do you have saved up? He had saved up about $400. I matched the 400. So we went looking for an $800 car and was banged up, but he polished
Yeah.
that banged up car for the longest time. And so we learned, you're so right. We learn about, and as kids, to put our money away and how valuable money is, right?
I want to piggyback on that because when you're talking about the paper route, you built a business. That's, to a lot of kids that they don't understand that that's a business. That's your business. And, we see even just last week, I was going for a walk and I saw kids with a lemonade stand. That brings back memories. Well, the one thing my son started to do with the help of his sister Becca, they built these paracord bracelets. And at one point, we had 3 stores. We were selling these paracord bracelets. That
Nice.
that taught them not only the value of money, but how do you set your prices?
Hmm.
Because that was a concept they were young, they were about 12, 11, and they were trying to figure out what do you mean by that? Well, number one, you have cost for these plastic clips, you have cost of the paracord, you have cost of your time.
That's
And
awesome.
and those little things, even a lemonade stand. Well, how do you teach kids on how to set prices? Well, you just figure it out.
Yeah.
And so, you're again the bike route, that's a business. And I don't think kids, well, I don't I don't see anybody doing newspaper routes anymore, but
Yeah.
that's still back then, Bill, you created a business.
And I feel honored. My father never taught me how to do that. I had to learn that on my own, but I learned by watching others around me. And I was so blessed that I had gotten a sense of this kind of thing. Last thing we'll talk about is money is a tool. And back to what I said earlier, it's not a measurement of your identity. It's really about giving it away. I think we should teach them about get like the tithing is so important.
Mhm.
And the more that we give away, the more they will get back in good time. But the whole giving to others is important. So my example on that, Tommy, is One Thanksgiving, we volunteered through our church to provide a meal to a shut-in. And we showed up at this older woman's house, and of course, my two older girls or teenagers like, oh my gosh, Dad, this is so dumb. Why do we have to do it, right?
I'm so embarrassed.
I'm so embarrassed. Oh my God. I'm just gonna stay in the car. Go, no, here, you're carrying the corn and the peas. Let's go. We showed up at the door, and of course, the whole time they're like, oh my gosh, rolling their eyes. We got in there, we met this older lady. She started to cry. We set up the meal and everything, and it changed my daughter's perspective instantly. They were humble and they realized. So it's so important to get them. And we talked about what is it going to cost to get the products, the items, and get there and give up our holiday for somebody else.
I'm going to tell you, I am very blessed to have a wife who her middle name is Volunteer, and my wife Anne is
Anne
heavily
is sweet. Anne is so sweet. I love meeting her.
She is so entrenched in the world of Kiwanis, and part of, you're talking about the holidays. We had the kids, and our oldest bonus daughter Betsy still does this, and I don't know if we can see this.
Yeah,
Toys for Tots. Toys for Tots. So we volunteer every holiday for Toys for Tots, hours on hours. And when we had the kids on the weekends back in the day, every other weekend during the holidays, they were part of it. They were part of, building packages of toys that were going to go to families. And so I feel, Bill, you're 100%. We as parents need to model the world of serving others. And when it comes to modeling that, you do hope that after years when they do become adults, that they think about that, and they think about, not just during the holidays, but like you were saying, tithing, donating to charity. And it could be time and it could be money, but you hope that, all the years of raising them, that they see
that altruism will be a part of their character.
Exactly.
And it's not just at Christmas and Thanksgiving. It's something, what can I do for someone? It doesn't have to mean writing out a check. It can be donating your time, giving items, that kind of thing. Tommy, it's been great. We're out of time. Thank you for joining me today on this topic. I got a zillion more topics I think you and I can throw together and help and guide fathers, parents, and grandparents. More grandparents are raising kids today. Yes. So we got so many topics lined up. Tommy, thank you again for joining me, and have a great day.
You too, Bill. Appreciate your time as always.
All right, take care.
Yep.
Thank you for downloading and listening to the Bill Corbett podcast, Creating Cooperative Kids. For more help with parenting situations, check out Bill's website, cooperativekids.com. If you'd like to ask him a question, leave your question in the comments box on this episode and he will respond as quickly as he can. You can also email him at bill@cooperativekids.com. This podcast is the property of Bill Corbett and Cooperative Kids Publishing. Copyright 2025, all rights reserved.